As owners of information companies, we often work with our management teams to discuss how the companies need to evolve and differentiate themselves in order to ensure growth in their businesses. And while there are many different strategies to do this, we see a couple of common themes that always come to the fore when we have this discussion. The first of these themes is really how does one actually increase the number of use sets which you can actually have for your data or service, not just with the individual user, but with the organization itself. The information businesses have always been characterized as businesses which try to embed their products and services into the business itself. And it's really been the mantra of the industry over the last number of years to actually create these deeply embedded workflow solutions. This creates tremendous value for the information provider because you have usually very good pricing power, higher renewal rates, and create overall demand for your service at the customer level. Now that this is actually done, and many companies are really deeply embedded with these great workflow solutions, the question is, where do you take that to the next level to ensure growth? And we think one way to do that is to look beyond the primary use case and how now you can leverage your position in that workflow to create ancillary services throughout the organization. A good example of this might be if you have a deeply embedded analytical product used for decision support. By actually tracking the user's interface with those analytics and how they're using them when they're using them, one can actually resell that product back in the organization for use in operations or internal reporting or compliance. This creates a stickiness of the product, makes it much harder to get rid of, and creates a lot more value for the organization itself. In order to do this, however, though, an information provider must have very deep domain knowledge of their business. This vertical market expertise that information companies have, we've always felt distinguishes them from being just sort of a plain vanilla generic software provider. And having this vertical market expertise really gives rise to the other major theme we see in promoting growth, and that would be to be able to add actionable intelligence to the data and service you're providing. We're seeing many progressive information companies being very active by actually employing new technologies, artificial intelligence, and really detailed algorithms around their detailed knowledge of the workflow in the organizations to actually help guide a user through a decision process where they're not only just providing information, but they're telling them what to do with the information, how to use it, and actually having them work several steps ahead through the decision tree that anybody is using that information. And this also creates a lot of value. Now, obviously, this creates an inordinate amount of complexity in terms of the amount of content, the amount of analytics that gets employed here. And that really gives rise to another theme that we see, and it's one that's often overlooked. And that is actually to focus on the graphical depiction of the data itself and to ensure that there's a visualization of that information which creates simplicity around the product and the service. One needs to look no further than Apple to see how intuitive product design and graphical depiction of information create a very, very valuable franchise. And we actually think that information providers would do well to learn from the Apple experience and actually consider graphical communication as one of their core competencies to bring that simplicity to the complex messages they're trying to basically convey. This is even more important when you think about one of the major trends that's out there, and that's one of mobility. Mobility, obviously, is a key trend for all businesses going forward. And what we actually see is that it's no longer acceptable just to deliver to a desktop, but obviously you have to actually transition that seamlessly to a mobile device. But when you transition that service to a mobile device, it's extraordinarily important that the utility or functionality of the product is not degraded in any way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, you're operating with a very limited set of screen real estate from which to work with. And again here, I think that these visualization strategies and understanding how to bring simplicity to complexity becomes even more and more important. Now, the other strategy we actually see, and the final one that we really see, isn't such an outward-facing one around product design and functionality, but more of an inward-facing one. Given the fact that developing these new capabilities and functionalities costs a lot more money, we think information companies really need to focus on their internal operations with much more closeness. And what they need to do is actually focus on their own workflows, employing new technologies, outsourcing strategies, using the cloud to create cost savings, and then taking those cost savings to reinvest in their own products and services so they can keep up with the pace of change. One needs to look no further than the newspaper industry to see how failure of actually working on your cost structure to basically create the money that needs to be available to create new product is extremely important. Now, most information businesses have had the good fortune of always being technology enabled, and so they've been at the forefront of this in the future. But as we see competition increasing and the demands at the customer side becoming more and more stringent, we actually think information companies will need to actually do more and more of this cost saving and efficiency in order to operate more to deliver the kind of products and services they've always delivered to the marketplace.